In today's class, we will see what is lexical semantics, and we will see how it is different from distributional semantics, and we will see the more details of lexical semantics, like what are word senses, what are the different relationships between different words. So we define lexical semantics as a branch of study in natural language processing which is concerned with the systematic meaning and related connections among the lexical items and their internal meaning and related structures of lexical items. So systematic meaning is that what is their internal or intrinsic meaning in respect of the original word and its connections between different lexical items. We'll see what is a lexical item as well as the internal meaning and the related structures of the lexical item. That means there may be some kind of relationship structure or some kind of hierarchical structure between the words. So the lexical semantics is the study of all these things. In very simple terms, we can say that lexical semantics is the study of the meaning hidden inside a word and its relationship with other words. Right. So what is lexeme? Lexeme is a very commonly term that is used in lexical semantics, and the term lexical is also derived from the term lexicon. Now lexicon is a plural of lexeme, and lexeme is an individual entity in a lexicon. Lexicon could be assumed as something like a vocabulary, a dictionary, or a thesaurus. Now primarily for lexical semantics, the study of lexical semantics, the lexeme must be composed of an orthogonal form and a meaning. So what is an orthogonal form? Orthogonal form is the way in which a word is expressed. So the word may be expressed in two ways. One is the way in which we write the word, that is the spelling, and the way in which we pronounce the word. And the meaning is the actual meaning of the word. So now there are some terminologies associated with this. So what is a lemma or a surface form? So a lemma is actually a root form or a stem form of a word, and there is a word form or a surface form of a word. So both are same, but a lemma can have different word forms like playing, played, plays. Alright, so the word form is actually that form which appears in the text or speech, but the lemma is that form that appears in the lexicon. Right, so we can see as an example, the banks is the word form, bank is the lemma. Right, similarly we have the other ones also. So these lemmas have actually senses. So we will refer to a word as a lemma. We can use the term lemma that is more specific to a lexeme or lexicon. So we will be using this term lemma. So lemmas have actually senses. So what is a sense? Sense actually represents an aspect of a word's meaning. So it represents what sense in which does this word mean. So a word may having same word, same lemma, may have same meaning but different senses. Right, so we see here an example of bank. Now we all know we go and deposit money into the bank, and there is another bank that is nearby the river. Right, so here both the banks have two different senses. Right, apart from these there is another sense of bank, that is one bank is an institutional bank in which we deposit our money, and one bank is actually a building of the bank. We refer to it as a bank only. Right, so but here we have two different meanings of the same word, but we can have also a similar meaning of the same word as a sense. So a sense can be defined as a discrete representation of an aspect of word's meaning. Right, so in this case, in particular this example, the lemma bank has two senses. As an example of each sense, a bank can hold the investments in a custodial account, and the sense 2 is, as an agriculture burgeons on the east bank, the river will shrink even more. So we are having two different senses. Instead of saying meaning, we can term these two differences as senses, right? So because sense have something more than meaning into it, right? It's not only the meaning, but it's something more that is having into its definition, right? So now there are some kinds of relationships that we can study with the help of lexemes and lemmas. So these relationships are like homonymy, polysemy, synonymy, antonymy, hyponymy, hypernymy, and meronymy. So why we all are studying is that because there are some problems that could not be solved with distributional semantics, and there are some problems which could not be solved with this lexical semantics, right? So that's why we are studying this all language part here, and the lexical analysis here. So we all have heard about the synonymy. Synonymy is again a relationship between two words or two senses. So synonyms are those words that have same meaning in some or other or all contexts, right? So we have this couch, sofa, big, large, automobile, car. So these words can be used interchangeably, right? So synonyms can be used interchangeably, or synonyms are those words that do not make much difference when substituted for one another in almost all situations, right? So we'll come up it later here. So let us start with the homonymy. So these are all different relationships that can have that can be present within words, and these relationships can be defined while preparing a lexicon, right? Or a lexical entry, like that is lexeme, and that lexicon will be helpful for doing language processing and applying it into different language processing tasks. So homonym is actually the words that have same surface form but have unrelated distinct meanings. We just saw a bank, and another example is bat. Bat is a thing that with which we hit a ball, and another bat is an animal, right? So two words that have same spelling but different meanings or different senses, right? So here this homonymy can be again be classified into two ways. One is the homographs and one is the homophones. So what is a homograph? Homograph are those words which have same pronunciation but different meanings. So sorry, not that is a homophone. Homograph is the word that is having same spelling but different meanings. Okay, so they have same written surface form and different meanings, but homophones are those words that have same spoken surface form but different meanings, that is the same pronunciation but different meanings, right? So write, WRITE, and RIGHT, right? So these two will be called as homophones. Okay, so the problem with these homophones and homographs is that suppose we have an NLP system that recognizes speech, or a speech recognition system, right? So a speech recognition system, how will it differentiate when the pronunciation is same? right? So we need to identify homophones in a speech text, right? Similarly, for homographs, how will an information retrieval system differentiate, or a search engine system will differentiate between which bank I am concerned of? So again, I need to identify the sense of the word, or the actual meaning of the word, right? So as an example, again, if we give bat care as a query term in a search engine or an information retrieval system, so this bat is an ambiguous term, and the ambiguity is due to the ambiguity is due to the because bat has many homonyms, right, or many senses. Similarly, in machine translation, right, the bat and bate both have same pronunciation, and in text to speech, this bas both have the same spellings, but these have to be pronounced in different ways, right? So bas is an instrument for a musical instrument, and another is a fish. So again, a lot of things has to be done, some algorithms has to be derived, have to be developed in order to differentiate between different senses of homonyms, right? And homonyms is actually the most studied in lexical semantics. Similarly, we have a polysemy. No, the polysemy is actually between those words that are related with each other. Okay, polysemy is related with each other, and homonymy is between unrelated or different words. So in the first example, the bank was constructed in 1875 out of local red brick, and in the second example, I drew the money from the bank, right? So the sense one is actually the building of the bank. So the building is constructed with some building material. Like we go to the bank, we say that this place, the school is near the bank, so we are concerned there with the building of the bank. But when we say about the money or the transaction, we are concerned with the financial institution as a bank. Okay, so the polysemous words have related meanings, and homonymy words have unrelated meanings, right? So that's the little difference between polysemy and homonymy. So how to like identify whether these words, these polysemous words are actually same or not, right? So there is a test that is called as a Zeugma test. So in that test, we take different examples of the word, right? We take different usage of words in sentences. So for example, one usage is, or one example of the same word is, which flights serve breakfast, and another example is, does Lufthansa serve Philadelphia, right? So here these two words are quite related to each other, but the first one is actually intending to those flights which actually is referring to the service of the flights, right? And the second one is actually referring to the places of the flights, right? So these are very closely related, but these are different things. So this Zeugma test says that we combine these two sentences with the same polysemous word, and try to join the applications of both with some conjunction like and, or something like that. So when we combine these two sentences, it becomes, does Lufthansa serve breakfast and Sanjos? Alright, so we then we finally inspect that whether the sentence final, the joint sentence or the combined sentence is having some kind of sense or not, is it weird or not, right? So we see that this one is looking very weird. So that means these two senses are different senses, and this is not very a sensible sentence. Okay, and so these two are actually the different, or we can say that these are different senses of polysemous word sir. Right, so we have this in case of polysemous word, we have this Zeugma test, and we have lots of systematic polysemy like school, university, hospital. That means we are concerned here with the systematic thing is that all can mean the institution or the building, right? So these all carry, the school as well as the university, hospital, bank, these carry the same kind of polysemy, right? The other kinds of polysemy like the author, like the tree, etc. So there may be different kinds of polysemies that may be present with words. Now the synonyms, we all know, the synonyms are those words which have same meaning in all the applications or all the contexts, and they can be substituted in place of each other in all situations, and they have same positional meaning, and we have these examples. So synonyms, we all know that these are present within a thesaurus also. But again, there are some examples that people have studied in which the synonyms are not exactly the substitutional meanings, but they have some kind of little differences, right? So in case of like big and large, we use them interchangeably, but again there is a very slight difference between the big and large. With the example, how big is that plane, and how I would be flying on a large or small plane. So I cannot use I may also use big here, big or large, but in another example I may replace it, substitute it with big. But Miss Nelson became the king of big sister to Benjamin, and Miss Nelson became a kind of large sister. So this is, not substituted, cannot be substituted. So big cannot be substituted. So we have again the same meaning, words have little bit different senses, right? Similarly, antonyms are the opposites with respect to some kind of feature of a meaning, right? So antonyms again are those words which are different in some kind of aspect or some kind of parameter or some kind of measurement, something like that. So they are not exactly different words, but antonyms also carry some kind of similarity, right? So and the problem with antonyms is that these antonyms are not very they are not dealt very in a very good manner by the distributional semantics, right? So that's the problem with the antonyms. So antonyms may be dealt with the lexical semantics. Why? When we study the antonyms with the distributional semantics, we see that there is very very small difference in the similarities, or they are very highly similar when we calculate some kind of cosine similarity or some parametric similarity between two antonyms. So they appear to be quite similar there in the in the vector space. Now why it is that? Because the context of both the words of antonyms are same, right? So like the dark and light, short long, fast slow. So uh, rise fall, so hot cold. Like in case of hot cold, the coffee is hot, the coffee is cold, or right. So this is again, they are having, the antonyms have very same kind of text that is present in its context. So in hot also the same kind of context will be there, and in cold also same kind of context will be there, right? So these are very difficult to be captured by the distributional semantics. So that's why we have the lexical semantics. So with the task specific problems, we apply the lexical semantics, we apply the distributional semantics, or we apply both in order to solve some kind of task, right? So this antonyms are actually, so we can say, binary opposition, or some kind of some opposition that is present at the end of two scales, right? Or some kind of reversive that is reversing something. Okay, so the significant thing is that these are not properly captured by distributional semantics. Similarly, we have a relationship that is called as hyponymy and hypernymy. So what is hyponymy? So in hyponymy, one lexeme is a hyponym of another one if the first one is a more specific, denoting a subclass of other, right? So first one is a kind of more specific, some kind of like in case of like example, car is a hyponym of vehicle. So we see that car is a subclass of vehicle, or it is an specific example of another sense. So mango is an example of fruit, right? So in both the cases, car is again a subclass. In fruit also, mango we can call it as a subclass of fruit, and conversely the other way around, the hypernym or the supernym, we see that the generalized sense is denoted by the hypernym. So vehicle is the hypernym of a car, right? So vehicle is a generalized form. Similarly, fruit is the hypernym of mango, right? Similarly, chair is the hyponym and furniture is the hypernym. So the other words for which we can remember both of these is that hypernym is actually the superordinate and hyponym is the subordinate, right? So the class denoted by the subordinate extensionally includes the class denoted by the hyponym. That means if we see a hierarchy, so a hyponym is actually already included in the class of a hypernym. Sorry, reverse. A hypernym is included in the class of hyponym, because hyponym is a generalized class and hypernym is a we see that hyponym is a specific class and hypernym is a generalized class, right? So hyponym is already included. If we see in the hierarchy or in the classification of hypernym, then hyponym may be included in that. So that means the sense A is the hyponym of sense B of being an A entailed being a B. So what does it mean? So hyponym, sense A is a hyponym of sense B if A is entailed in B, right? So if A is a car and B is a vehicle, so car is entailed in vehicle, right? And we can also have is-a relationship between these, like chair is a furniture, okay? And we can have these relationships in as transitive in nature. So how it is transitive? A building entails a flat, or a building contains a flat contains a room. So there is a transitivity between these, the hyponymy and hypernymy, okay? And there is another one more class of relationship, that is hyponyms. So hyponyms are actually the instances. So instances means that as we saw earlier also, like fruit. So San Francisco is an instance of city, right? Now one more relationship is the meronymy. Meronymy is actually a systematic and transitive relationship between senses. So why I'm calling it as a transitive or a systematic relationship? So we can say that if X is a meronym, X is a meronym of Y if it denotes a part of Y, right? So X is a meronym of Y if it is a part of Y or denotes a part of Y. So in this case, leg is a part of chair, wheel is a part of car. So leg is the meronym of wheel, and leg is the meronym of chair and wheel is the meronym of car, right? And the vice versa of meronym is holonym, okay? So that these are all just some relationships between the different senses and lemmas, and we are studying this because there is a encyclopedia or a thesaurus that is called as WordNet. So this WordNet is actually a collection of lots of it's similar to a lexicon, but it is more enriched than a lexicon. It has much more things than a kind of lexicon is having. So it is actually a very large database, and it is also hierarchically organized. Hierarchically organized means that it is having all the relationships that are present between different senses of different words. So what the relationships we have studied up till now, the WordNet includes all these relationships, right? So these this WordNet is day by day that is being upgraded and with words. So it has different categories: noun, verb, adjective, adverb, and more. So this is an example of a screenshot of WordNet, and WordNet can be accessed through internet. It is freely available over the internet. So when we type or we search BASS base on the WordNet, we get this kind of a screenshot. Now in this screenshot we see that all these with bulleted dots which can be seen here are the different senses of base, right? So the first one is in red, it is mentioned whether it is a noun or a verb or an adjective. So the first one is actually some kind of, again, some part of musical instrument, and the second one is some part of music. Third one is again a male singer, right? And the fourth one is actually the fish, and the fifth one is a freshwater fish. So you see that there are 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 senses of bass is present here, right? Some are homonyms, some are polysemous words, some are synonyms, and some may be homonyms, right? And one is the adjective, right? So a sense is defined within a word net is called as syn set or synonym set. So all these senses are actually called as syn set, right? So when we refer to as these set of senses, we call them as syn set in word net. Otherwise we can just refer to it as sense, right? So we see that there are 9 senses present here. These can be numbered. So here if we see again, we see the sense of jump, that is, it is shared by 9 words, right? So in case of 9 syn sets, the word jump is present, right? So the word is present with itself in is the first sense is jump. In fool it is present, the jump is present as the second sense. Again in gull it is present as the first sense. In mark it is present as the 9th sense, right? And in each of these they have same gloss. What is a gloss? Gloss is actually the example that has been given in the bracket here, right? So in this first sense of bass, the example in bracket is given as the lowest part of no, sorry, it is not an example. It's so in this adjective we see that the example is in a bass voice is lower than a baritone voice, right? A bass clarinet. Okay, so these are the examples. So the gloss is called as the usage of that particular sense into a sentence, right? So each of these wordnet pages have the glosses present with along with the meanings. So the chump one, which refers to the chump, have same gloss, right? Similarly fool 2 and fool 2 is actually referring to the sense as chump. So both chump 1 and fool 2 will have the same usage in the sentence, right? So these are some kind of characteristics that are preserved in the wordnet. Okay, and we can see the hypernym hierarchy also. So we see that a bass is a singer is a musician is a performer is an entertainer is a person is an organism is a living thing is an object, and an object is a physical entity, right? So we see that we are moving from a specific to a more subclass, right? More superclass, a subclass to the superclass. So this hierarchy is also present. If we wish to see, we can see it in the wordnet. Okay, so we can have all these kind of relationships can be derived from with the help of the wordnet. Okay, so the important part of wordnet is that we can view the wordnet as a graph, and then we can derive the relationships between different words, right? And in with the help of this kind of graph, we can calculate the lexical similarity between two words, right? So we can calculate the similarity of a word, suppose a golf cart and an automobile or a car. We can calculate the similarity between these two, or we can calculate the similarity between a wagon and a car, right? And a tractor. So with the help of this graph, we can calculate what is called as the lexical similarity with the help of some measures. Okay, so WordNet is quite helpful in calculating all these kind of things we can study, and we can use the WordNet in order to find out the different senses between the words, and we can use computational lexical semantics, that is we can use computational algorithms also, like supervised machine learning algorithms. With the help of this WordNet, we can generate some kind of data, and then we can apply them into an algorithm, and then we can predict the senses, or we can just use some kind of simpler non-learning algorithms, like LESC algorithm, that is just a lexicon based algorithm that calculates the senses between senses of two words, or that predicts the senses of two words, and that works quite well, which saves the training time and also. But if we have large data, then we can apply the machine learning algorithms, and we know that machine learning algorithms are always much more better than the conventional algorithms. So we will continue in the next class from here onwards.